Fair maidens and gentlest of men, little solo episode. This is something a little bit different, and I don't want to, cut this. I don't want to edit it in any way, so I just want to kind of ramble for as long as I can. I won't keep you too long, maybe about an hour or so, or maybe slightly less than that. But yeah, I thought, we're bringing back the podcast. Obviously, the Dawn Diaries, it is like primarily an interview-based podcast, so we'll obviously try and get loads of different guests on throughout the week. Yeah, like, obviously it's hard, man. It is hard, and see, when you're doing like all of this yourself, you're like a one-man band with it. There's so many things that maybe people don't actually like realise that would go into something like this. And I spoke about it with Evan from Riley's Gaff when he was on a couple of weeks ago, and obviously, like, we're not saying it's like the hardest thing in the world, obviously not, and I'm like, so incredibly privileged that the fact that this is like kind of my job now, even though it's a kind of small scale just to begin with, it is kind of like my job now to do podcasts, to make content, etc, etc. But usually, a lot of these people have like teams behind them. They'll have camera crews, they'll have production, or directors, or even people like reaching out to brands and guests, etc. But with my show and with the podcast, I really wanted to do this. Like, I wanted all of it to be a one-man band. And to be honest, like, literally every guest that's came in since I started it back, like, they've all said the same thing, that it's heavy cool because it feels like they're just coming into like my living room, for example, whereas other podcasts or interviews or everything that they do, it's in a big set-up studio and there's loads of different people watching and behind you. And I have done that before, obviously, when I had my podcast before. I ran it through at G4 Podcast Studios, but right away I feel like there's a kind of element to it that does feel a little bit maybe produced, or not necessarily forced, not necessarily forced. But then when you're in actual here in your own studio, I can design it whatever way I want. There's nobody else in the room. It really just does feel like a proper sit down chat, and like a natural chat, which is kind of the vibe that I wanted to go for, and just making sure that all the guests are like super comfortable. And listen, it's a bit of a fried thing, like you're meeting somebody, and most of the time it's somebody of stature, or what's the word, clout, if you want to say, and you're meeting them for the first time. But then the first time you're meeting them, you're sitting down and having a conversation with them, but it's in front of cameras, etc. So that can be a wee bit daunting at times, obviously, for people coming in. So yeah, that's obviously the kind of vibe that I wanted to go for, and just keep it super chilled and stuff. But yeah, do you know what, I thought I would jump on here. That was a kind of roundabout point of me saying that trying to get guests on, and especially just in Scotland, you are quite limited to the pool of people. And of course, people are doing it as a favour. It's not as if I'm offering big massive lump sums for people to come on the show. I understand that obviously some people are doing it as a favour, but I would like to think that they also would then get something out of it as well, whether it's opening their self up to a new audience in terms of mine, for maybe people that haven't heard of them before, or just don't really know what they do. But yeah, there has been a couple of people, I won't say any names or anything, but since I started the podcast, there was one person in particular that, yeah, it was a bit poor, to be honest with you, a bit poor. Nailed down a time and a date, I think 3 or 4 different times, and I came down to the studio every time, and then they wouldn't reply to me, and then they would then reply and be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so busy and stuff, like, but we'll 100% do this. And it's just like, seeing situations like that, you would rather they were just like straight up and see if they can't do it. Like, it's fine, but just please, like, just be straight up with me, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Because also, whilst I appreciate that other people's time is really busy, and they maybe are doing it as a favour, or to help me out or to come through, and I really appreciate that. Obviously, then I've got like my side of things where I've also got my own time and I'm really busy, etc. as well, and maybe I've moved things about, and it's just a shame like that, because it's like I proper looked up to this specific person in terms of what they are doing and how they've grown their thing. And that sounded a bit fucking mad, like. that's for another side of things, how they've grown their thing. I could do with some advice on that, but anyways, yeah, it's just a shame, because like sometimes you think, man, like, could they not maybe put themselves in my shoes and see like this person, and they're really, really trying to start something for themselves and pursue something that they also tried to do, and they have done as well. But anyways, like, listen, I'm not sitting here, I don't want this to turn into a negative kind of session or anything. And I think maybe I then quickly realised, I was not necessarily badgering this person, because I wouldn't say it was badgering, because like, I was just trying to follow up on something that they'd agreed with, multiple times, but yeah, man. Yeah, it's just a bit frustrating. But anyways, this is the way that I am. This is the way that my mind wanders. I start like a topic in the sense of talking about guests and stuff, and then it just wanders off. But hence the reason why I thought, you know what, I would just jump on, and I want to do the wee occasional like solo podcast, even if it's just like once a month. And for anybody that cares and listens, and listen, I know that for example, when I post this, it's probably not going to get many views. I know primarily a lot of people tune in for whoever the guest is on, etc. as well. But I also know at the same time and in the same breath is me saying that sentence, that I know that there is loads of people that also do love the show and love what I do and things, and I'm not saying that in like a cocky way or anything. I think it's just because for years I would say I've been my own worst critic, I've been my own worst enemy in terms of doubt and negativity, and it's held me back a lot. It has held me back a lot, man, whereas now I'm just trying to focus on positives literally all the time, and a massive positive is I said that I wanted to bring the podcast back for ages. Now has been the right time. I've then secured a studio, I built it up, and this is what I like to do. Like I'm like an action taker, I'm a doer. Whenever I get like an idea in my head, and there might be other people where they maybe do get ideas in their head, but then it'll just quickly kind of go out of it, because they'll think, oh my god, I couldn't do that, and I'm not realistic, it's not realistic, any of these things, whereas I get an idea in my head and I'm just like, I need to do this now. If it feels right, and I really know that internally it feels right, I just need to go out and do it. So obviously set up the kind of podcast studio and stuff. But yeah, I thought I would do a little solo episode, because there has been a lot going on in my life, and I know a few people had been watching the podcast, and for example, they'd asked if I'm even doing, personal training anymore, and all these different things. And yeah, I thought like today I could just come on, chill. I was actually meant to have a guest booked in. He's cancelled loads of times, but and then I was meant to have another guy in. He said that he could actually do tonight, so I'm actually waiting to hear back from him. But I thought I would just bulk make episodes anyways. But here we go. I've spent 7 minutes talking about the fact that I'm doing this this solo episode. But yeah, and I think as well, like one of probably the reasons why I thought, I'm going to come on and do a little solo chat, a little solo episode is because I've seen my hero and my inspiration in this game, Theo Von, do it. I absolutely love that man. Like genuinely, I absolutely love him, and I don't really have many like heroes, if you want to say. And I'm not one of these people that, bar Justin Bieber, of course, I absolutely love him, but I'm not somebody that like really obsesses over like loads of different celebrities, or I would necessarily like listen to their views and opinions on things, because I think a lot of these celebrities are just so out of touch with reality. Like it's crazy. I always think like, see when I seen like Katy Perry, right? She went up in space, and it was millions and millions of dollars that this mad space expedition cost. But then these will be the exact same celebrities that will be appearing on like charity shows, or begging muggles like us that have absolutely no money because everything's so expensive for money. And it's like, are you just not going to donate? Do you know what I mean? Like I've always thought that, this is getting like obviously into different avenues, but I've always thought that, see about like the likes of Comic Relief and even like Soccer Aid and stuff. Like the most recent Soccer Aid was on, and there's something that just feels like extremely out of touch about it, in my opinion. You've got all of these like multi-millionaire celebrities begging the rest of the UK public for money when none of us have any money. And it's like, did they actually donate, or did they just get a buzz playing in Soccer Aid because it's like good clout for them and good engagement, and it gets them content and stuff? And listen, Soccer Aid ever come to me, I'm 100% doing it, man. But I would like to think that if I done it, I would also like donate some of my own money. And listen, some of these celebrities might, but I think it's just like the roundabout point. Like I remember doing like Comic Relief Day and Red Nose Day when I was a wee guy, and now that I'm a bit older, I'm like, how are these things even still going on? Because there's enough money in the world that if we did want to cure all these problems like world hunger and poverty, then it would have been done by now. So I then start to question, like, where is this money actually going to? You know what I mean? Like, and listen, I'm not saying 100% I know what happens. I don't know the records of these charities, but when you see the amount of money that gets raised every single year, and the millions and millions and millions of pounds, then I think everybody's got a right to start to question, like, by the way, where does this money actually go? Like, I don't think a lot of people know this, but see, for example, like UNICEF, there was a big massive scandal that came out about them where, like, the CEOs of UNICEF, I would need to double check this, but, like, they were taking, like, millions and millions of pounds in bonuses, but at the same time, millions of pounds went missing from like, the charitable donation fund and stuff, and it's just like, it's just there's something that just feels so fake and sneaky about it. And like I said, I think that if anybody actually wanted to go and solve these problems, then they would. And it shouldn't take doing a TV show with all these out of touch celebrities that have got millions and millions and millions of pounds to do that. But anyways, where was I even going with that, man? Why did I start getting into like charitable donations and stuff like that? And I don't actually know. I don't even know where that came from. But yeah, so I obviously thought this was a good time to kind of sit down and do, the podcast, because I'd put out a video the other day. So I was sitting in this chair actually, and I put out a kind of, a reintroducing myself video, because I just think I've not actually done, let's just say, a specific kind of story time like that, and just updating people on, what's going on in my life and what's happening, and, all these different things, because there is a lot. There's a lot going on, and there has been a lot going on over the last few years. And yeah, like I'm really in that kind of, is it lane you want to say? I'm really in that lane in pursuit of really trying to achieve greatness. And I don't mean that in necessarily like a cocky way, but I just mean it in the sense of like, I'm not shy to put myself out there and to put out there that I do want to be like a full-time podcast host where I'm making really good money just from sitting having chats, and different companies sponsoring the podcast, which I can touch on obviously in a week, in a minute or two, a wee bit later down the line in this episode. But yeah, I want to do that. And obviously at the same time as well, for anybody that knows, I've launched my own seasoning business, which you'll be able to see like placement obviously in this video. And this kind of office space that I've got, like half of this is my studio up the back here, and then obviously the other half that I'm looking at is this Grand Seasonings office as well. And it's been super, yeah, it's been amazing, to be honest, like launching a completely new business and actually having a product. Like, I've always been a business owner, if you want to say, in terms of doing the personal training. But I mean, if anybody's a PT listening to this, or just anybody that isn't and wants to know, in my own personal opinion, I feel like when you do personal training for a bit, it just ultimately becomes something that you really are, like, you can make good money off it and stuff, obviously, but it doesn't really feel like you're proper running like a day-to-day business necessarily, because it's like essentially just you that you're running and putting out there. It's like you as an individual that you're, trying to sell to people, if that makes sense. So I think, like, just actually, I've always wanted, and I've always said, to be fair, even when I started PTing, I was like, I've always wanted to venture into different things, and I've been like clued up enough to realise, even from like a young age, when my burning passion was just to be a PT and only do that I knew that I wouldn't want to just do personal training until, the day that I die, or the day that I retire, sorry. And also as well, that's not me saying this on like a mad high horse and in a mad cocky way, like, oh, I'm so much better than everybody and I've left that because I'm doing my podcast and I'm trying to chase greatness. And no, it's not about that. It's like that greatness feeling that I'm talking about, it's all internal, It's doing that thing that genuinely gives you that burning passion and that burning desire, and why you want to get out of bed in the morning to go really, really chase and achieve something. And listen, sorry if this is obviously maybe a bit boring or repetitive, because I've spoke about things like this a lot, and again, like, I really, really want to get across that this isn't me like shitting on anybody that does, I'm not saying a normal job, but just has like a kind of conventional 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, or works for a company. Because trust me, wow, trust me, there has been loads of times over the years where I've just wanted that. I've wanted that structure, that normality, that routine, that safety, if you want to say, of just having a set income every month and not needing to worry about things maybe dropping, or, 1 minute you've made thousands of pounds and then the next month you're making no money, and it's so up and down. And there's been so many times, man, but I've just never been built for that, like, even from a young age, right? And I don't actually know necessarily where it comes from, to be honest. And I was trying to do a bit of internal digging, if you want to say. I think I've said internal about 1,000,000 times in this podcast, but I wanted to do a bit of digging because I've always had a problem with authority, like, seen through like primary school. I'd probably say in like the latter years of primary school, but primary school and high school, and in any jobs that I've had. And when I left school and I went to work in, I was about to name them, probably not, but when I went to work in the bank, in the office, in town and stuff, and I've just never been able to deal with somebody speaking to me in like a disrespectful way. And listen, obviously now that I'm old enough and I've matured slightly, if you want to say, obviously from back in school, I wasn't an angel, right? And I know for a fact, probably, if I was a teacher that was 30, 40 years old, that had a lot of shit in their plate, kids, families, money issues, whatever it is, that when they seen wee chubby curly-headed Adam coming in and just being an utter dick and class clown, you know, in front of everybody, then yeah, that would obviously get frustrating. But also at times I think it's important to say that, you know, some of the ways that teachers spoke to, you know, obviously not only me, like I'm not the only person in the world that's ever been spoke to badly by a teacher, but yeah, some of these teachers, man, and I think school as well, and it's probably getting a wee bit deep, but school isn't for everybody. But I don't like how when you're in it, it gets made out that it is the be all and end all, and it's like you're putting so much pressure on really, really young people to make a massive, massive life decision. And 99% of the time, see people that like end up going to uni and studying something, I genuinely don't know anybody that's went to uni in my immediate circle of friends or anything, or people that I know that have actually went on and done the degree that they've just spent 4, 5, 6 years of their life doing. And then most people do a postgrad and then they just go back to uni for a year. In the same course that maybe would have took somebody 6 years, you can just go and crash it in like a year's time in that. And I'm just like, what? Like, how does that? Oh man, how does that make sense? But yeah, I just don't like in school. And I have sat and kind of wondered about this. Is this maybe why I've had maybe certain problems mentally, like later down in life, or it's maybe added to who I am as like an individual? Because like, I went into school all the time thinking I'm so stupid. Like, I am so dumb. And I know, listen, if I just applied myself a wee bit more, I maybe would have got better grades, etc. But that isn't the way that I was built. And I think it's such a shame for so many people that they're not built for that, and that, you know, way of learning or education system or anything, that ultimately then leave school with nothing, or they then can't get a job. Yeah, I don't know. And listen, I suppose this is getting a bit deep and a bit fried and talking about, you know, the SQA and the curriculum and stuff. But, you know, I do things a bit deeper in the sense, like, I do view school as like this big indoctrination camp almost. And listen, that's not to say that people can't get benefits out of it. If you went to school, you loved it, you loved that routine, you went to uni, you went to a job, amazing. Like, as long as you're sitting there and you're happy in yourself, your life, you've got good friends and family about you, that's the only thing that matters, man. So it does, it's the only thing that matters. But yeah, man, I don't know, I just think, you know, you go to school, you're in there all day, you're there Monday to Friday, you get 2 days off at the weekend, you're sitting all day doing mindless, brain-numbing things that you've got zero interest whatsoever. You're constantly just waiting for that Friday bell to go, so you've got the weekend and it's the same again. And then, what is that preparing you for? It's preparing you for leaving school and getting a job. And it's always been, and obviously the last, like, I would say few years, not everybody, but loads of people have been in pursuit of just chasing stuff that actually they want to do. But yeah, I think it's just setting you up to go into a job, and it's like that whole kind of thing, like, as long as it pays the bills and as long as you've got a job and it's all set down. And I obviously I just viewed that life in a different way, and that's not to say I'm right or wrong or anything, but that isn't life to me. Life isn't for, you know, sitting behind a computer 24/7 in a job that you absolutely despise and looking forward to a week or two, you know, holidays every year in the summer, and then that's you to next year, and then you ultimately do that until pretty much 5 years or whatever before you die, and then that's just you. And it's like, I don't want to look back at that age and think, is that what life was like for me? Is that what I've done all my life? Is that, you know, life's meant to be there to be lived? And listen, I'm quite a deep thinker, so if this is, you know, boring anybody or anything, feel free to switch off. But life to me is for living, you know, for having experiences, for, you know, creating different things, for, you know, going and seeing different places, for spending time with loved ones and family and friends, and, you know, all these different things. And I think it's sad that a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that, you know, just working a job, that's life. And it doesn't need to be. Like, it genuinely doesn't need to be. That doesn't need to be everybody's life, just because that's like the set conventional route that's been laid out for us over the last how many, you know, 100 years or whatever it is as well. So yeah, but anyways, getting a little bit deep in that. But yeah, so obviously, like, in terms of the PTing and stuff, like I said, like, when I left, you know, the bank, I hated it. You know, I was really overweight, been overweight obviously my whole life, and I used the kind of gym as a distraction, and just quickly felt like I want to help other people, I want to inspire other people, I want to, you know, motivate people that have been in my same position, that maybe thought they were going to do nothing with themselves, and, you know, all these different things. I want people to, yeah, like, to maybe at that time to look up to me and think, right, well, he's had, all the weight piled on him. He's then lost it. He's been through these experiences. He's left school. He's been a waster. He's done nothing with himself. And then, I just really wanted to help people that been in my kind of same shoes. And obviously when I started it, and it's so mad to even think back, when I fully qualified to be a personal trainer, I put it off for months. Like, I put off making my page for months. I put off making my logo or all of these different things. And it was like, I was so terrified of external opinions and people that weren't even in my life. They didn't matter to me whatsoever. I was so terrified of, them judging me or slagging me or calling me a gimp. And I think when you're younger, all that stuff means more to you, I need to be liked and I need to be deemed as popular, and I don't want to be seen as a mad gimp or a weirdo. And then, see, as the years go on, and listen, I'm only 26, but as the years go on and you grow up a bit more and you get a bit maturer, that's the thing. I posted about this the other day. That's the thing I love about getting older. It's how less, personally for me anyways, how less judgmental you are. Even when I was in school, I was a wee dick. I would look at people, and I'm ashamed to say that, but I'd look at people and think, he's a fucking gimp, or whatever, he's not getting the shoes, or whatever it is. And it's so stupid. It's so hollow and harsh and low. And then obviously you're young, so you're not fully matured by then. But then as you get older, you then start to deep all these things. And see, now I'm just like, let people live and do whatever the fuck they want, because it's their life. And back to what I was kind of touching on there, it's like, it is your life, it's your life and your life only. You've only got one shot at this. Like, do you really want to get to your deathbed and think, oh my God, I was caring what John said about me and fucking Peter? Or, nah, because they're irrelevant to you. And do you know what I always try and say to people as well, right? And this is coming from somebody that's had crazy mental health problems over the years and stuff, that obviously I've got myself better now, but all of these things that your mind is trying to tell you, 99% of the time's a load of shite, and it never ever comes true. And your mind and your brain, it loves to attach on to the negative. It'd be amazing, see if, your brain loved positivity, and, if you went into a certain situation where maybe there was positive things and negative things, where, your brain would just instantly latch on to positives and see all these opportunities and doors opening and all these things. But unfortunately, our brain doesn't do that, and it loves negativity. 100 people could compliment you, and one person could say one bad thing about you, and you know what you're going to focus on. It's going to be that negative thing, and it's a shame, obviously, that our mind is maybe set for that. But there is ways and methods that you can train your mind, and I've trained my mind to, trust me, I have trained my mind, because my mind's crazy, and it still is crazy, and I know I'm crazy, and I'm a bit different, and a different thinker maybe to the conventional kind of route, etc. But yeah, I don't know where I was going. Don't really know where I was going with that, to be honest, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I'm not gonna lie, I've just had a mad mind blank. This is the beauty of doing these solo podcasts, because this is just real. I was on a mad fucking train thought there, and I've just completely lost it. And it was talking about just going and doing what you do and stuff. And I remember there was a guest, right? I suppose, I could probably name him, right? Because it's nothing against him, but there was a guest that was on my podcast the last time, David Hatt, and he owns, the MTN business. They're, the biggest coaching business in Scotland, probably fast approaching the UK. And I had him on, but I never really done this, but I had, 2 guests on that day, so I had one in right before him, and then I had him after. And this is probably an important thing that to touch on for people, obviously, that don't do a podcast and maybe wonder about it. And again, this is me saying it's the worst thing in the world, but it is quite hard to sit and try and hold a conversation with somebody where you're trying to keep it natural, but see, at the same time, you're also having to think of right, okay, the next question, and I need to move on to this point, or maybe they said something really important that I need to backtrack to, because I want to find out more information to that. And I remember David Hatt came on, and I just wasn't in the right headspace. I'd just done this other one, my head was buzzing and stuff. And that way, I remember there was a part of the podcast, and I had the biggest mind fart and mind blank, and I was just sitting there, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't say a word. I genuinely couldn't even say one sentence, because I was sitting there, and I was like, oh my God. And then I started to go red and purple and so embarrassed. I was like, I'm sorry, mate, I'm going to need to take a break and stuff. And we then continued the podcast, and after it, man, I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. Okay, and I've remembered kind of what I was talking about there, and it ties into the whole mindset and negative things. My mind after that was just like, you're a failure, you're a disgrace, he's been on podcasts before and he's had such intelligent conversations, and he's came on yours and you've completely forgot your train of thought and you've had a mind fart and a mind blank, and it was embarrassing, and you start to hit a riddy, as we'd say in Scotland, like start to hit an embarrassment. And I messaged him and I was like, mate, I'm so sorry, like that's so bad of me, and I'm so in my head about it, and I just unloaded all my emotions onto him. And what a guy, like, was like, mate, it's fine, like, that is real, that is raw, that is real life, these things happen, you then conducted yourself after it, you finished off the podcast, you done that, etc. And it's just so funny then, and that was so nice of David to obviously say that, but it's so funny because, again, my mind instantly went to, oh my god, he's going to think I'm so embarrassing and this and that, whereas that wasn't the situation at all, and it was just my mind trying to tell me that. And then there you go, David then sent me a lovely message and he's like, mate, it's chill, like it's absolutely fine, I'm not thinking of any of these things. And I've just always been so bad for that, and I not as much recently, but years ago, obviously, when I first done the podcast, oh man, it was just negative. Nobody likes me. Nobody wants to listen to this. This is terrible. This is brutal. This is never going to work. And the reason that I'm speaking about this is because if you're sitting listening to this, you'll probably get thoughts like this all the time about things. It doesn't need to be work related or job related. Like, you're probably sitting there like, I'm so negative about myself, and whether it's the way that you look or the way that you talk, or you go home and you replay a conversation over and over and think, why did I think that? It's so important to then try and take a deep breath and ground yourself, and then remind yourself that, like, this is just your brain playing tricks on you, right? And getting into like another side of things that I've been doing, and it sounds all wishy-washy, right? And it sounds crazy, maybe, probably is. But rather than like, see constantly, when your brain puts like a negative thought in your head, or that inner voice in your head is starting to be negative or down, or bashing you, or a goal, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, that's just that subconscious part of your mind, because it's been programmed to do that. It's been programmed to look at everything deeply and look at the negatives and think of what if, and it's almost like your brain and body's fight or flight reaction, if you want to say. And we've been bred over the years that we've had that adrenaline system and that fight or flight system in us, because we had to run away from bears and fucking lions and all that back in the day when we were all cavemen, etc. But now in this day and age that we don't need to do that, it's like our brain's opportunity then to be like, what is it that I'm trying to look for, and what is that danger, and then it starts to look at things in your life and things internally, and starts to play tricks on you, right? And now I'm big into, like, I would say spirituality, if you want to say, and I have been probably over the last year or so since I've really been working on myself. And anybody listening to this, I always thought like spirituality, oh my god, that's that wishy-washy, I'm sitting fucking hugging crystals in here and doing my I suppose the mantras, I suppose, but it's not really like that. And it's more just about like really finding yourself and really like nailing down exactly what it is that you want to do, and who you want to be, and it all ties in with thought processes, right? And I am not bullshitting when I say this, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm not amazing feeling 100% of the time. It'd probably be strange if that was the case. I have some days where I wake up and think, oh my god, like, I can't do this, or I always have these doubts at times, but nowhere near as much as I used to years ago. And this might sound, and it's hard to do, it is hard to learn how to do this, but see any sort of negative thought that I get in my head, whether it's through overthinking or through experience or through situations, I recognise that that's my inner voice in my head, and it's not actually me. It's not Adam. Like, I'm not Adam. I am an actual person. I'm a soul. And that inner voice inside my head, that's not me trying to talk to myself, and it's my brain trying to play tricks on me. So obviously, I'm not saying that if anything, a bad situation happens, you can be like, oh, this isn't real, and I can just move away from this, because that's not true. But rather than fixating and focusing and rather than doing all of that, I just now recognise in my head, like, this is a negative thought, and I'm now going to get this out of my head because it serves me no purpose. These negative thoughts and energy I put out to it, it's keeping me on like a low frequency, if you want to say. And I don't mean to sound fried when I say that, but when you are attaching onto all these negative thoughts and feelings and emotions, then throughout the remainder of the day, you are going to constantly be in that negative state because it's all you're clinging on to and attaching on to. And see, instead of doing that, right, replace any negative thought with a positive one, right? See, when you wake up in the morning, see instead of just like instantly going on your phone and jumping on TikTok and the first video that pops up is about Putin fucking nuking the world or whatever, you're instantly getting all these thoughts and overstimulation and all these things going through your head, and right away, without you maybe actually fully internally realise, there's that internal word again, you're already in this mad, crazy state of up and down, and you're like, see, instead, right, I'm going to give everybody listening to this a tip, right, and it sounds wishy-washy. See, as soon as you wake up, say out loud 5 things you are grateful for, right? Whether it's the house that you're staying in, the bed you're waking up in, the partner that you love, the little dog that you have, the coffee that you're going to go to with your friend, anything like that, right? And the reason of doing that is not, because it's some wishy-washy genie type style of thing. It's so you can emit positivity as soon as you open your eyes. What are you grateful for? What are you really, really thankful for? Because I think in this day and age and in this world where there's so much materialistic things to chase after, and you can go on social media and see somebody that's doing the same job or position as you that are light years ahead of you, and you're sitting questioning why. And rather than all of that, you need to sit there and actually truly deep and realise everything that you are fully grateful for. And listen, it can be hard to do that when you're in such a dark, negative headspace and you maybe had things going on and maybe like a loss in your family and all these different things. But there'll be so much that you are grateful for. And see, just saying it in the morning, you instantly start your day like, I'm actually really rich. It doesn't need to be rich financially, but I'm rich in the sense I've got love, I've got compassion, I've got support, I've got a roof over my head, I've got food on the table. And these things seem simple, but see, to other people in the world, these are dreams. Like these are things that people could only dream of. I seen a video and it was this family, and they adopted, a couple of children from Africa, and they've took them back to America, and they're documenting their life. The boy got a calculator, man, and he was crying his eyes out. I'm gonna get a wee bit emotional now, man. I'm getting goosebumps, like, and it really does put into perspective whenever we're like chasing some sort of materialistic thing or this crazy goal or anything, and there's so many people out there that like are buzzing about a calculator. Oh, man. And a wee bit upset even, like, just, I think I'm just like thinking back to the video, and I'm quite emotional, I'm not going to lie. I sometimes sit and watch that and, have a wee cry and a wee tear in my eye and stuff. I think because it was so positive then, and knowing that they've went through situations like that are now, having positive experience, and I think maybe feeling a wee bit emotional about it because I've been in such a dark place, and I'm not saying that, I'm not relating that to the situation I just spoke to about the African children, because they've had it much worse than me. But just in terms of like, it's such a, I maybe don't even realise or deep it enough at times that it's such a crazy position for me right now to be sitting in my own studio, to be speaking into this microphone, back on my podcast, because honestly, I genuinely thought there was a time that was never, ever going to happen. A couple of years ago when I went down to Manchester, I went down there already in a bad mental space, and it just accelerated when the real world slapped me in the face, when crazy bills came through and rent and losing business and not knowing anybody down there, and it was at the time that I didn't realise this, obviously, when I was in this bubble of darkness, that it was hypochondria that I was dealing with, but I just knew in my head, and obviously it's turned out to be false. Like everything that I've just touched on there, everything that I've just spoke about is always false. It's always all the shit. But my brain had genuinely convinced me, people, I'm not lying here, that I would be dead in a year's time. And funnily enough, fast forward over 2 years' time, I'm still here, I'm still chatting to everybody. But at that time, for about a year, I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about paying bills that were overdue by months, or replying to people, or emailing somebody, or the way that I looked, the clothes that I wore. I was walking about with things with holes in it and stuff. I didn't care about the way I looked, my appearance, anything, because I was like, what is the point? What is the point in caring about anything? Because I am going to be dead in a year's time. I'm not going to be here in a year's time. remember obviously moving down there and my mum and dad coming down at a time, and I was so worried about me, man. Like, so worried. And again, I've never even really went into so much detail about this, and probably not as much, and every time that I do, I know that it helps so many people, and I'm always cautious because I'm like, I don't want this to come across that I'm trying to like benefit or self-promote myself through mental health or anything. But then in the other, same breath, a sentence, I do want to speak about this because this is real. I'm not lying about any of this shit. I'm not making any of this up to self-promote myself or anything like this. I've been through these experiences, and the amount of times that I've talked about my own experiences that then people have listened, and even like when Sean Weir came in the other day, and I would highly recommend listening to that if you've not listened already. The amount of messages me and him both got of people he got one in specific. It was somebody that was going to kill herself, and they listened to our episode and listened to Sean's story, obviously in specific, and because he listened to that and he's seen somebody like Sean Weir, the butcher, the bare knuckle guy, the big monster, and all of a sudden you're hearing this 6'4" guy who's a trained killer with his fish, that he's been so vulnerable and opening up on his darkest times, and he's living proof and embodiment that despite going through the craziest and darkest of times, and that you can get better, and you could be a bare knuckle champion, or on a smaller scale, a podcast host, or anything that is that you want to do. And I just remember my mum and dad coming down, man, and I remember them having to go back up the road to Scotland in tears because I think they were terrified that I was going to do something to myself. And I think, weirdly, whilst it was like the darkest headspace I've ever been in, I'd never had any sort of like suicidal thoughts, in the sense I was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to end things or anything. I did have something that was really, really scary, interesting, I suppose, now that I'm away from it. But I had a balcony in my apartment in Manchester, and it was about 6 stories up, so it was quite high up. And I remember I'd sit out in that, and I would enjoy sitting out on it, but I would get all these like really like scary and crazy intrusive thoughts when I was sitting on there. So like I'd sit down, I'd be high up, and I've always been naturally scared of heights over the years, but I'd sit on that, and all of a sudden I'd be sitting on my phone or just thinking, I get this voice in my head, you need to jump off this, jump off it, over and over and over again. And it would like push me back. It would like, I need to get back from here, and I need to grab onto everything on the side. It was like my mind was telling me, you need to jump. Like, and this was coming at a time as well, and this is going to sound crazy to people, but like, I didn't think anything was real. I didn't think I was real. I didn't think life was real. I didn't think the people walking past me in the street were real. And then ultimately, obviously, then after I got help, I realised that it's called DPDR, derealisation, depersonalisation, that's a huge symptom of anxiety. And as soon as I get told that, it took the pressure off a wee bit. It's still a scary thing to be dealing with, but it took the pressure off a wee bit, in the sense, like, I was like, okay, I am not like I probably was losing my marbles a wee bit, but I wasn't, going crazy thinking, oh my God, this isn't real. And I think then when I had this voice in my head telling me to jump off this balcony and jump, there was a part of me that's like, I can do this, but like nothing's going to happen to me because none of this is real. It was such a mad feeling, man. I was so crazy, like looking down at, like, I'd look at my hands and be like, these aren't my hands. And I'd look at myself in the mirror, and I would like sometimes even forget like my name. Like, I wouldn't even know that this was me that I was looking at. And it's just, yeah, sorry, I'm getting pure deep here, man, but it's just like crazy to think now in like a roundabout way that like at a point in my life, in my time, I was sitting there thinking, I'm not even going to be here in a year's time. I've got myself better. Like, I knew that I needed to come home. I had to get back to Scotland. I had to be around my friends, my family, my mum, my dad. I had to get myself better. And within the space of a year, I get help. I worked on myself physically, mentally. I bought my first house with Megan. Fast forward 5 months later, I got engaged to the love of my life, Central Park. It was snowing. It was amazing, man. It was like the most perfect moment ever in my life. It was crazy. It was like I can relive it. Like, I can sit in my head right now and like almost like put myself back to that time and visualise it word for word. And yeah, and like that's probably a story for another time and stuff. And then I've came back. I've had personal goals in the sense I did want to move away from PTing and personal training. And it's been hard for me to talk about that because I still coach like maybe about 7 or 8 people, and it's people that have been with me for years and years. And it was hard because like with the whole PTing side of things, like I have lost a burning desire and passion for it, and not in the sense that I've lost that passion with the people that I have already, because I've not, and I genuinely do. I get so buzzing to come on weekly and speak to them and see their progress and updates. And I've got, if you're listening, people like Gary Morton that's on, and Nicola that's been on board with me for ages, and all these people, and I love that. But I just mean I lost the burning desire and passion that it was like me in my life, and I was Adam, the gym goer and the PT, and it just didn't feel right, and it hasn't felt right, and it's not felt right for a couple of years. Because see, at the time when I was like obviously going through all the things that I've just told you all about, I was also trying to live this mad lie as like this happy-go-lucky, fit and healthy PT. I was the complete opposite, man. I was a shell of myself. I didn't even go to the gym. I was eating shit 24/7. I was a shell. But then in this really, really weird, contradictory way, I'm then trying to be this other person, this PT out there, and it was fake. It was completely and utter fake. Like, I was faking it. I wasn't that person, and I constantly tried to be. And yeah, and then this is why, like, obviously when I moved back, I've had goals of like, I want to bring the podcast back, right? Because it gives me an opportunity and a platform to just be me, to speak to people that I like, I love, I'm interested in, I know, to find out, different things about their career and what it is that they do and their passion and all these different things. And yeah, like, and for years and years and years, I've always not been able to 100% pursue things like this, and being a presenter. Like, I've done so much things with like big brands like Branston and Amazon and other brands. Maybe won't name, but other brands, and I've done all these things, and I really want to be, a presenter, a full-time podcast host. Fuck, who knows? I want to have my own talk show on the TV in the future, all these things. And, some people might be listening to this and thinking, you're off your nut. Do you think, you think you can have your own talk show on the TV and you're that delusional? No chance, there's no way. But that isn't how my mind operates. My mind doesn't operate like that. I don't look at things like, I need to be realistic or things. No, because I genuinely think, Troops, so you're listening to this and you have a desire and a passion, and don't even think about the financial implications. And listen, I'm also not being naive when I say that, because if you're somebody that is maybe like 40 or 50 years old and you've got a house and you've got 4 kids and you're a single mum, you can't just drop your job out of nowhere. It's more for people that maybe are in a good situation where they can afford, and they can afford to take that risk or take that leap and take that jump and try and do something for themselves. And now's the time to do it. Now is the time to do it, people. Stop putting it off. Stop waiting for the right moment or the perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time to start whatever it is that you want to start. You should have started yesterday. Start now. Start now. And listen, I'm not sitting here either saying this like I've got it all worked out, or I'm like Joe Rogan sitting here with the biggest podcast in the world, but I'm taking action. It's built up. It's slowly, gradually building up, and I know that if I just keep at this, I have the mindset side of things along with it, and also the action, that I can achieve stuff like this. Why not? Why not? See all these people that do anything great, and these actors or TV stars or sportsmen or anything, do you think they've just got there for doing it one time or anything? No, they've done multiple things. They've learned, they've failed, they've grown, they've done all these different experiences to then get themselves in this next part. So rather than beforehand tying back to me being so down on myself and negative and thinking there's no way you can ever do this, and why are you not there yet, and why don't you have 1 million followers and all these different things. Well, my story is different to the next person's, and theirs is different to the next person's. And in my situation, I've been through crazy mental health struggles that I know for a fact has completely set me back in terms of, that's probably years worth of content and put myself out there, and opportunities that I've missed. It's years worth of stuff because I was in my own head. I was trapped by my own brain. Whereas now I'm like, it's rhino mode. It's head down, charge on. achieve anything I want to achieve. I want to be a mad multi-million pound entrepreneur. I want to sell Scran seasoning. I want to, make a difference in the world. I don't just want it to be financial. And with the podcast, rather than me beforehand, Adam, maybe thinking, oh, you're just doing a podcast and you like the clout aspect and, it'll maybe do okay. No, these conversations that I'm having with people and with you sitting listening, these can change lives. I just seen it with Shotton. The guy was going to kill himself and he's not, because a conversation that we've had with somebody it's a lot to take in, and it's powerful and it's heavy, it's deep, but it's like, and it ties into what I want to do, and this ties into what I'm talking about. When I got into PT, and it was for the right reasons, it was for inspiring people, to motivate people, to encourage, to give people an opportunity and look at somebody and think he's really making something of himself. And I lost that along the way. I lost that when it turned into a numbers game, and I was on 95 clients. I was making 12, 13 grand a month at times, and I didn't even know who half the people and clients were with me and on board, and it was horrible. It was just like, this doesn't sit right with my soul. Doesn't sit right. People needing, people asking me for help. I don't even have a clue who you are, because I've got about 90 other people that I need to speak to, and then it's like, I had that negative headspace of thinking, oh, you can't do that with the podcast, you can't have that impact. And I can, and whilst yes, it's maybe at a relatively small scale, obviously, in this current climate, in this day and time as I'm recording this, that doesn't matter, because even if you're just helping or inspiring one person, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I'd be a liar, I'd be fake if I was sitting saying, oh, I'd do all of these things for free. And, when you hear PTs, I love my job so much that I would just do this for free. Do it then. Do it for free, but you're not going to, because money, we need to make money. So, like, I want to make money. I do. I don't think that's like a crazy thing to say. I don't think that. I feel like sometimes when people put that out there, and it's like, I want to make money and I want to make something myself and I want to make millions and all these things, it's like, let's say, man, what you want to do that? And usually 9 times out of 10 it's coming from people that just don't or can't do that, and it's them shitting on somebody else trying to achieve something. Whereas I just think, well, should we not be encouraging things like that? People growing up want to make something themselves. And again, if you don't want to do that, if you just want to go, work a job and you like that routine, and that's absolutely fine. Because like I said, and like I keep touching on, if you are happy internally and you're at peace with that and yourself, and you've got family and friends, that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. So it is, but whoa, I've just sat for 50 odd minutes and just went straight, and got deep, and I suppose that's what the point of this was, obviously, as well. And I think actually, I remembered that I started to talk about Theo Von, and then my mind just went into so many different things. But oh man, if anybody asked a dream guest, I think he'd be number one, Theo Von. Yeah, because do you know what? I love how real he is, authentic he is, raw. He's funny, he's entertaining, he can get deep with people, he can chat to anybody. I think, and this is what I was touching on, when people idolise these celebrities, they're so out of touch with reality, and it's crazy to me. Whereas people like him, yes, he's a celebrity and well known, but he's making a real difference in the world, a real difference. And that would be, wow, Theo Von, man, that would be unbelievable. And see, in a weird way, I can see it happening. I can see it happening. A load of people would maybe think, that's mental. There's no way Theo Von would do a podcast with you, with Adam for Renfrew, that's only get 30,000 followers on Instagram or whatever it is. But dream big, people, and chase after it. Yeah, thanks for listening, man. Thanks for listening. Do you know what? I could probably go on for ages, but I thought it's a solo one. Let's just wrap this up about here. Might be going to Miami now. This is the way that I work, man. I literally just woke up and I was like, I think I need to get to Miami next week for the World Cup. I need to. I'm seeing people out there making content and doing stuff and videos, and I'm like, do you know what? I've got no attachments, no ties. I've got nobody telling me I need to be here at this time or doing that. I need to get to Miami and chase my dreams and pursue it.